Hello, welcome to the Coffee Shack and the Stay Mental Health Awareness campaign. And today we're talking to people from, Louise and Joanne from Red Door, and the subject is addiction. So we'll start off with a simple question: what is addiction? Probably not a simple question.
No, it's actually not a simple question.
Yeah.
I go with what I think addiction is. For me, addiction is, I suppose, a response to human suffering, to pain and hurt. So a lot of people would say that there's the disease model, or it's an ethically, or someone that hasn't got strong willpower. It's a moral issue. But for me, I suppose it's a response to suffering. Someone has emotional pain, trauma, and learns how to self-medicate and to deal with it. So that's what addiction is for me. A lot of our people that will come to us, if you go back into their childhood and go back into to their past, a lot of people would have traumatic experiences, and half of them didn't know how to cope with it at the time, and learned a way through substance or behaviour, gambling or shopping or sex or whatever, but they've learned a way to self-soothe, to ease the pain.
Right.
That's
I 100% agree with that, and I'd add in, of course, the familial piece, which is like people say, is it hereditary? I don't think it's genetically. This is my opinion, but it's definitely a learned behaviour. So if you see your parents or anyone that is close to you as a child looking outside of themselves to get support, to use a crutch that isn't an internal crutch, so they use alcohol or drugs. So when things get tough, they always go outside of themselves to manage that situation. But then you learn from a very early age, this is what we do. This is how we move forward in our lives. So we don't ask for help. We use a crutch that's a substance, and then you learn from a very early age that that's what we do in our family system. Yeah. So that's how, that my understanding, because I suppose the disease model of addiction is something I think we both agree it doesn't really fit for us.
It's definitely the disease model. It takes the control from the person. Yeah. So I'm sick, I have a disease, so therefore it's out of my control, I can't fix it, someone has to cure me. And for medical professionals, I suppose that's being we're the experts. You're the sick person, you've got a disease,
and you can never get better,
and it's out of your control. So that really takes the responsibility from the person who's in addiction, because it's like, well, I can't do anything about it, so
I'm powerless.
So that model definitely, and that's the old. If you look at years ago, the medical model, or if you look at AA and NA, that would be the kind of the approach they come from, where you it's you have a disease. Yeah. I suppose if anything, dis-ease, that old, I'm uncomfortable in myself, and I don't like how I am or what's going on inside me internally, and I want to get away from that. So that's that would be my kind of slant.
But you're definitely saying, and even when you say hereditary, you don't mean it's something you're born with.
No.
That's way.
I do think when you're born, you can definitely be predisposed to, to end up in addiction. Whether it's intergenerational trauma, if you're what I mean. If you've been, say, I'm in Derry and I've lived through, my parents have lived through the trauma, my grandparents, and then, but I've never witnessed any of this. But I can pick up, if you're my father and you've lived through the troubles and you've been traumatized, and you pass that down to me, and whether I've been there or not, I can still experience and have the trauma that you had, and I'll carry that into my life.
Yes.
So there's huge research to show that now.
Well, I would have worked, you talking, I'd say you would have as well, Joanne, with people whose fathers were in industrial schools in Ireland, like were in Letterfrack or were in, so their fathers were not in addiction, but their children are in addiction because of the trauma their fathers experienced. I saw a huge lot of that when I was working in Kildare in Cherry Orchard, and I used to think, oh God, this is like in the early 2000s, late 90s, and I was thinking, oh, this is bizarre. And the fathers were really rigid, and they couldn't believe that their sons had addiction problems. And I'm thinking, they've had such traumatic backgrounds.
Yeah. If you look at Northern Ireland, the Troubles, where you see huge amount of addiction in Derry and Belfast, anywhere in Northern Ireland, because of the trauma of years and years of the Troubles being passed down to generation to generation. And we'd see that here. We'd see second, third generations of families coming through the service now, and you go, would have dealt with someone's parents, the next thing you see is their child coming through. because the children then have lived in a house where there's addiction, there's trauma, there's chaos, and they then in turn, they then model what they see by their parents. Mom and dad take drugs or they drink or whatever to deal with day-to-day stuff, and therefore that's what I do, and I'll internalize that and I'll follow. So we always say to people like breaking the chain. Don't try and get some level of recovery or something so you don't pass it on to your children. You don't want the same, and then your children pass it on to their children, and that's what, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think unmanaged trauma is like, and I think we're getting better as a nation at understanding trauma and how it manifests physically and mentally. Like, I think you can carry trauma in your body in so many ways, and like if you look, like the North has some of the best, say, trauma experts in probably in Europe for obvious reasons, but I think we need to be aware that there's loads of different ways to work with someone. It's not just about necessarily sitting down and talking to someone for hours and hours about, because that can re-traumatize someone really massively. So I think it's very important that we recognise trauma as probably the big, like that's what Gabor Mate says. It's not a war against drugs; it's a war against traumatized people.
Wow.
And that is the truth. It's a war against traumatized people. If you just listen to that statement, and that's why we have to move away from this absolutely puritanical, horrendous stigma that's attached to our people.
Yeah, and you look at we are dealing with people who are already hurt and in pain and traumatized, and yet then they're addicts, and we see them then as we're actually we're punishing people for being in pain and being hurting. And that, we know what I mean, because we judge, there's such stigma on people who use drugs. So we see a heroin addict walking down the street and you're looking, go, look at him, you think he caught himself on, but actually he's in pain, he's hurting. And we're actually then making them even more, by stigmatizing them, we're making them, feel more out of place, more, unaccepted and rejected, and all that then on top of how they're feeling already. So it's about how we view it, definitely how we view people in addiction has to change.
So what would you say is the best or your more favourite way to try and cut through, break the chain for someone, and or I mean, you've been through addiction, so how did you I suppose you can't, like we said earlier, you can't go to that trauma place very early, because they haven't, when people come to us at the beginning, they haven't the coping skills to deal with that. So if you start addressing the trauma at early stages of recovery and someone's after getting clean, well, they're going to run straight back to addiction, because what you're bringing up for them is so raw, and they don't know how to manage what's going on for them. So they're going to run straight back to the drug or the substance or whatever the drink, whatever they're doing. So, from my training and from my own personal experience, we would very much take people in and day-to-day stuff of just, of eating well and exercise and the very basic stuff. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic stuff of, have they a roof over their heads? Have they clean, have they clothes? Have they somewhere to shower? Have they, are they sleeping? Have they needs that they, whether physical or psychological or whatever, have they needs that need to be addressed before we can start looking at the addiction piece? So that's the stuff we do in the program. And on the day program, we'd spend a lot of time, generally the first year, and just turning up on time, coming in, engaging, trusting, building that relationship is a huge piece. Because a lot of people in addiction have, are very untrusting, have probably been hurt by people that they should have been able to trust, and that they're very, very I suppose guarded and defended, because anybody who have ever let me in has hurt me. So I'm not going to, so a lot of time building that relationship. Why do you want to know that from me? Who are you going to tell about that? You know what I mean? So you'd have a lot of that. A lot of people that come to us might come to us from prison or from social workers or from a probation service. So they're very, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure. Will I be totally honest with you, or will I just tell you a little bit about what's going on? So to be totally honest with you, what will you do with that information? Because so it's very much building a relationship, getting them to trust you and their basic needs, and start from there, and then start getting them to open up. And we basically setting little goals. What do you want? What do you want from this service? We always say it's about a quality of life. So we don't push total abstinence on anybody. We'd say, what's your goal? So maybe I'm a heroin addict and I'm using 3 or 4 bags a day, and I want to get down to
if I smoked a few joints at the weekend, or if I had a few drinks at the weekend, I'd be happy with that. You know what I mean? So it's about setting goals every week to move towards. So maybe instead of, injecting could you maybe smoke 3 of them, and you know what I mean? Could you move from, so we look at a harm reduction approach, so doing less harm to you. If you're drinking spirits, could you drink beer? Is there, you know what I mean? So we set little goals like that, and they come in and this week I didn't smoke as much, I didn't use as much this week, and that's a little victory, and you move through that, you know what I mean, to along that path of setting goals, and the more they achieve the goals, they get the kick from that, and it's. So that's how we kind of work.
I think we also try really hard to get people to set realistic goals, because they always come in the same. I want to be off everything. That's it. I'm never using drugs. I'm going right. That's a big one. Okay.
See how that works.
See how it goes. I always give people the opportunity, right? And they come back a week later and they've been arrested on Friday night for being drunk to somebody on the street or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's not the way we're going to go. So people are very we all do it. I'm never chocolate again.
The day after.
And Monday,
it's
lunchtime and I'm already after eating the bar.
The diet's going to
that's it now.
No,
you have to be good. And you see, the thing is, it's such a stigma that people go, oh, that's it. I'm a bad person and I have to stop. And you go, oh, no, hold on a minute. So you're not a bad person. Let's start with that. So self-esteem is everything. You cannot work with someone their self-esteem is on the ground. So exactly like Joanne says, someone is wearing clean clothes. They've managed to get there at 9 o'clock, half 9, 10. Whatever their appointment time is.
They're not affected.
They're clean. And they're not even if they're a little bit affected and not stoned out or banger and can have a conversation, that's a victory.
Yeah.
For some people, that's a massive victory. So you go, oh, thanks so much for being on time.
Yeah.
Okay, you're 10 minutes late, but fair play. You were half an hour late last week. 10 minutes late, and your mum didn't have to wake you. Whatever it is, be real, be congruent, and say, that is a win. It's a win.
Yeah.
And they go, Jesus, I did actually get in here on time, and I am clean and fresh, or whatever it is. Start from there.
Right.
That is the smallest little thing you can do for someone. And I always say, if someone can get a brush with respect as soon as they walk in the door of our service, someone is nice to them, someone is kind to them, someone makes them a cup of tea, hands it to them, sits down beside them and says, have you eaten this morning? Do you want a bit of toast? You're on a winner. And the smallest little things, and people will come back. All you need is get someone back. That's all you need.
Keep them coming back.
Yeah.
And then you can start doing the work. Because we have 2 parts to our service. So one part is very much the drop-in. Anyone can come in
no
any
threshold.
stage.
So you can come in, if you have alcohol or drugs taken, you can come in into the service.
All right.
You can't consume them on the service. You have to hand them over if you have stuff on you. But you can come in any way with a pool table and with a big room, and you can have tea and coffee and make toast and sandwich, and then you go outside and you link with workers, with key workers in the service. You come in and you might meet Ollie or Marie or Peter, and you'll sit down, maybe have a chat of, do you know what, I need to get a medical card, or do you know what I mean, I'm going to be fucked out of my house soon and I need to, you know what I mean? So people are, they're coming in with, things that are going on for them, and they slowly start to build a relationship with the people in the service and come back. And some people, there's people that, maybe it's the first bit of food they've had in a day or two when they come to our service. The first time somebody's asked them, how are you, what's going on for you?
Right.
People that work in, you'd see them just
your socks are soaking or your runners
or teeth. I'm in agony with my teeth, and I've no medical card, I can't see a doctor, and I haven't slept in days because of that. That's the kind of stuff that we get people.
So
just that even as the beginning, just
that's
giving
the start.
them
So the advocacy piece is massive. So if we can get somebody, get them a medical card, get them sorted with whatever, get them a new pair of runners.
Sometimes even filling in an application form for people.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I can give this the house, and I can't read and write. Will someone help me do?
So we start that, and then the relationship starts to build, and then we have the lads on the day program, and the lads or girls. I say lads, I mean everybody. They see the lads coming in. They go, oh, what's going on there? Who's working in that garden, or who's doing the woodwork over there? And I say, oh, that's people who are maybe a little bit further in their journey, and you can see, Jenny, there's such and such over there. God, the last time I saw him, he's flat out. You go, no, he's doing really well, and they chat, or they say, oh God. So then you start thinking, maybe I could do that. He can do it. So peer is everything. If you can see someone who you used to know was used to use it maybe, or
look at him there. He's a year on the day program, and look, he's looking fresh, and he's a bit of weight on him now, and look, he's doing the woodwork, or he's in the gym,
or he's got the kids back, or relationship
he's back with the girl. They're the little, you know what I mean? They're the little wins that you know what I mean, that we see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then people go, how do I get on there? I go, you're just in that program. Okay, now they'll already know about it, but the fact that they're asking about themselves on it, you're like, yeah. So I'd say to Joanne, this person's interested. What do you think? So we then have a pre-entry group. So as soon as they start to show interest, now some people just want to go on the CE, and like we have to assess them for a while because think, we want to make sure that we don't rock the boat for them or anybody else. And if you get somebody to do something that they're not ready to do, they feel terrible. So immediately they're losing again.
Right.
You know, it's a bit like, you know, you're setting them up nearly. So we're really conscious of that. So people go in and they go, oh, I want to go on that program. Definitely it's for me. And you're thinking, So a month later, they haven't achieved what they need to do to stay on the program or to manage the program. They fall away. And you think, we set them up. We should have known that they weren't ready. And we have to work them. So anyway, we put them in the pre-entry group. The pre-entry is done every Friday. But there's a request on them then. They have to come into the pre-entry group and they have to come into the drop-in twice a week. Yeah. So they have to visit our service 3 times a week.
We have to see them. So it's eyes on, we're getting eyes on them, seeing how, you know, how stable are you really? Can you actually attend the service 3 times during the week? What do you like when you're here? What's your engagement like? Are you just here because you feel you have to be here, or are you actually, do you really want to be here? It also gives them, we get a sense of telling them what's expected of them when they come onto the day program. Yeah. So we're very much around, structure, like being on time, being present, being in a good position to work. If you come in and we've a woodwork room, we've a gym, we've an art room, we have bees, we've a biodiversity garden. They get everything from key working to group therapy to a reduced use group to a CBT group. They can have counselling. Yeah. We have cookery programs. We have, you name it. They can have everything. So we're trying to show them level 4, 5 and 6 in FETech. So we're showing them what a balanced lifestyle is. Instead of their life is all about getting money to get drugs, getting money to get drink, using, and then the cycle goes again. We're showing, okay, this is what we want. You know what I mean? If you're, what we kind of offer is structure, day-to-day structure for people, routine, and we're showing them, we're modelling to them what a healthy lifestyle is. Yeah. So a bit of everything. And a bit of social, they're all meeting other people, they're getting to know people. Then we're encouraging them, okay, see what we do with you for the 4 hours in the morning? Yeah. You replicate that in the evening now. You replicate that at the weekends. So you get out and you do a bit of exercise. You go and, get to AA and A meetings. Build on that outside. Yeah. So what we show you here, this is, and try and bring it home and implement it in your house and implement it in, So that's that's the idea, I suppose, of the, and we've got good success.
Very good success.
Right.
Very good success.
Now it takes a long time. See, this is what makes me laugh about any of the programs really. Say I'm going to, see that person for 6 weeks. Really? they didn't get here in 6 weeks. They didn't become addicted to this, and their life has become very unmanageable in 6 weeks. So you're not going to get them out the other end of that in 6 weeks. And you get a lot of pressure from different agencies around. They say, many people, how long have you seen that person for? Oh, you need to. No. We see people, and I'm rigidly adamant on this, for as long as we need to. Yeah. If it goes long, like we have them for 3 years, sometimes 4.
On the sea, they can be there from 3 to 5 years. So, and for anybody, even for me when I was coming in recovery, it's a very slow process. And for some people, they can hit the ground running, it happens very quick. Yeah. But it can be very slow from the time of even just stopping. Like stopping the drugs and drink that's the easy part. Anybody can stop. Right. It's staying stopped. Yeah. And that's what we get people who go do detox, or again, I'll stop, and I've stopped now, and I go, okay, they delight themselves, go, well, it's great to stop, but it's staying stopped because it's dealing with life on life's terms, day-to-day stuff coming to you. Like, a relationship is broken down, or I'm in no money, or my landlord's on my case, and dealing with them pressures and not running to use a substance or to cope with that. So that's where
it's also like for some people when they stop, it's very boring. Like if you've been in this kind of whole, buzz of, really busy to get your drugs, to get your money, to get your drugs, to have the buzz of the drug and everything that goes with that, and the whole lifestyle. Yeah. Oh, they think it is so boring. They
what to do myself? Yeah.
They'd ask you what do you do on your day off? I'll tell you what I do. I spend a lot of time in coffee shops. Well, I used to before I had the child. You know what I mean? Like they ask you, and they go, "What did you do in the evening?" I said, "Actually, I went to the cinema." You did not. And they go, "No, I actually did." Like. They've not. It's so different because their life is so massively full with things that are so alien to us.
Probably so much energy. They could have run a company.
They could run this country.
Because you get so addiction is you get so the dynamics of it. You're so manipulative. You're so deceived. You know what I mean? And everything that comes with it, and the energy that comes with sustaining a life of addiction or drugs or getting your money, getting the I always
say to lads, if I was stuck in a desert island, I want to be stuck with one of ye. We get fed and we definitely get out.
skills, and if you apply them, you're dead right. You apply them to a business or to
Look at Joanne. Doing her masters in addiction recovery in Trinity.
Yeah.
Own house, fabulous child, fabulous relationship.
But that all came slowly. But that's something I worked on. But like when I was 18, 19, I was injecting heroin. By the end I was injecting heroin and coke, and it was just absolutely it was amazing. I was smuggling drugs into the country. I was just robbing that. Just crazy life. Around 28, 29, I pulled away from that. But then I stopped using, the day I stopped using heroin, I was like, I stopped using, but actually I was still on methadone, I was still on benzos. I had to come off that. So it was a really, really slow process. And then when I stopped everything, I realised I was still miserable. I started gaining a huge amount of weight. I went up to around 24 stone. And I was going, what's wrong with me? What? You're not, you know what I mean? But I'd swap one addiction for another.
Yeah.
So the emotional pain and the reason that I was so unhappy, and the reason I was choosing drugs and food, I hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
But I thought, you stopped, you know what I mean? You're not taking drugs anymore, and you know what I mean? And the penny eventually dropped to me and went, okay, there's something else going on inside you that you need to address and look at. So I went back to therapy, and I had been in counselling all the way through addiction, but never landed with me because it was so chaotic, and the heroin, and there was, you know what I mean, life was mad, like absolutely crazy. So it only when I went back to therapy and I realised, there was traumatic events in my childhood, there was addiction in the family, there was so many things, and I re-traumatised myself within the addiction. So, you know what I mean, my father, or my son's father, he passed away. There was different things happened. There was so much pain and hurt that I never dealt with. I didn't realise that's what I had to go and look at and address. And then that's where the healing came. And that's when I started to get better. But I thought, when I stopped using drugs, that it was going to be better.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I was like, what's going on here? I stopped using drugs, but I'm still miserable.
So you definitely got to address the root of you got to go to therapy, right? And I just wondered, is that dangerous, because then you're bringing up the trauma again?
Yeah. But I think I've learned from what I say to my clients as well. People always say to me, "But if I go that deep, Joanne, will I not get overwhelmed?" I think there's a mechanism in the body which doesn't allow you to get that overwhelmed. And bit by bit, I work through it. And there's bits I still haven't worked through. There's still things that probably, but maybe I never will.
Yeah.
But I've done enough to manage my life now, and to
you do see that with some, like, that's why people would say, oh God, I didn't remember that. Memories come back when people start to do work on themselves, but they only come back, I think, when you're ready to deal. Like, that's why.
So if you do talk therapy, they'll only come back slowly.
That's the hope. Like, I mean, obviously, some people it comes in a different way. Like, but for most people, I think when they start to remember stuff, it comes up when they're ready to deal with, and when they're with a good therapist, and they're held in a space that supports.
And the therapist is able to hold them in that space. Because I counsel and I work with people, and there's times you see people, and you know that you can kind of nearly see it coming. They're going to start to talk, but there's something there, and you can nearly, maybe they'll bring up sexual abuse, or maybe you kind of just get to know there's something coming, and they start to talk about it. And that, I'm just giving an example there. I had a girl who came to me, and she said, what happens when I start talking about this when I can't manage it? And I said, no, trust that you will be able to manage it. And bit by bit, she started to talk about what was going on, and she managed it. And she was in a safe space. She's coming every week, and we were able to contain that and manage it. And she was able to. She'd learned the coping skills. She used to journal. She used to meditate. She was exercising. She felt better about herself, so she didn't have to run to take the drugs. Then she had other coping skills when the trauma came back up, and she got very skilled in in just being okay. I'm not back in that place. I'm not back in that place where I was getting hurt. I'm okay and I'm safe now, and be able to ground herself and realise that, because I think a lot of time when we have memories and stuff comes up for us, we're oh God, I'm in that moment and it's happening now. To really kind of be able to go, no, that's in the past, that's not happening to me now, and just have memories of it. You know what I mean? So that's I suppose what when you work with people and they get to that stage, I think if they have the coping skills and they have them, and that's what we try and show them on the day program, of things that are going to stand to you when the shit hits the fan and things come up for you. Because that's what emotional pain, even for me still. Rejection's a huge thing for me, right? So if I'm in any state and I get rejected, my brain straight away goes, bag of heroin, I'll take that away, Joe. Yeah. And I go, no, but you can't do that anymore. So
what else am I going to do?
Yeah. But I go straight away. I go, oh my God, I don't like how I feel.
So
that's
how do you cope with it then? If those
coffee and cake. Talking about it. Yeah. Talking about it. That's something I never done. I would never have talked about it. I would have been very shameful of never, I suppose, would have asked for help or would have, and always felt, never trusted my gut, never was genuine, never felt authentic. Yeah. So there's a huge lot of that. How do I manage it? I just have them coping skills now, and I know I don't need to go in. But there was a time that's all I knew, and I didn't know how to manage.
It comes from maturity as well, doesn't it? There's a lot of research would say when you come to a certain age that you mature mentally, and some people would say like that.
You just grow out.
You just grow out. Now, obviously, you need to
you sit with the pain.
You have to do that. I mean,
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just that.
You have
it's okay. I'm not going to die. My head's not going to fall off.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel pain. And I said that to my clients now. Look, you know what I mean. You mightn't like how you feel. It mightn't be nice. It might be uncomfortable. Yeah. But you know what? You're not going to fucking die from it. But you will die if you keep using drugs.
Yeah.
So that's what we all the time talk about.
But that's life experience, isn't it? Even when, like, your first breakup in a teen, I think, my life is over. I'm never going to be happy again.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't like me anymore. It's over. And then 2 weeks later, you think, I'm actually okay. That's a huge learning experience. But a lot of our clients have never had that because they've never had it without a substance.
Yeah.
So they've never actually dealt with any kind of pain. And then when they come off, it's very hard. Like we've worked with people who have lost partners, lost children, lost brothers through addiction or whatever way. Never felt any of it.
Yeah, never
cruise through because they were using, and then it's like imagine that feeling. It's like
and having to address all that when you get to recovery.
It's very hard. So the support necessary is massive, and I think it's not going to happen in 6 weeks, 6 months. It takes forever really to get over some of these traumas. But with support, constant support, and being able to ask for that support and say, listen, like you say, Joanne, I'm not feeling. What's going on? Be able to say, I'm not feeling great. What is this? Who will I talk to about that? That's half your battle. If you can pick up the phone to anybody for whatever reason, say, listen, I'm having a really shit day. That is so hard for us to do as humans, I think. To actually reach out and say, I am not good.
And this is where NA and AA come in for people.
Yes.
That's another resource in Red Doors. We'd always advocate for fellowships or Life Ring or something like that. When people have somebody that you have a phone number in your phone and go, I'm having a shit day, or I'm feeling a bit crappy, or maybe I want to go use, but I can pick up the phone and reach out to somebody, and I have resources and I have support, because that's what we all need, But people can struggle with that at the beginning because they're like, I don't want to be talking, I don't want to be putting my burden onto other people, and people think people struggle with that.
But they've often had experiences and I always say to parents, particularly if your kids tell you something like, I've smoked a joint, and you start roaring in their face. Well, they're never going to tell you anything again. And that's often what's happened to people. They might have tried to reach out at some point and said, I'm a bit worried about my addiction. Maybe I'm smoking too much weed, and their mum has literally ripped their hair out of their heads and said, you stupid muppet, what have you done? Forget that. Yeah. And Peter McFerry always says, I've heard Peter McFerry talking to parents.
Tommy Tiernan last night.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I watched it tonight. But Peter McFerry, I heard him talking to a lot of parents once, and I burst out laughing. He goes, the way sometimes you think, am I to blame? If you shout in your child's face and they try to tell you something, you are to blame. No, not like you are to blame for their addiction, but you are to blame for shutting down all communication.
Yeah.
And you have to try. I always say to parents, please try and hold your space. Say nothing. Go, okay. Thank you for telling me. Bang your head off the wall next door. Ring your friend. Ring whoever you need to. Don't start shouting in your child's face when I tell you something. That's a no-no.
Yeah. So straight away they close down.
Yeah,
and never come to you again.
Yeah.
And then they'll go to somebody else. Somebody else can.
And
somebody else.
That's there's loads of stuff because we're so afraid as people, and I think we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our children to do the work ourselves. So when it comes to the stage that you hear something, whether it's about yourself, about your family, about your children, about whoever, you actually can hold and contain it long enough to go, I ring Joanne. Oh, Jesus, very joking. But or say to your child, I don't know about that, but I will find out. Bloody hell, give yourself a half an hour before you go back and say, no, this is what I was thinking about that. Because you owe it to your family and owe it to yourself. Because, oh God, some of our clients have such horrendous experiences from their parents to their grandparents to teachers.
That's the trauma. That's the trauma.
That's the beginning of trauma or the middle of the trauma. Or, I think we really need to, as a nation, embrace our society, everybody in society. We're all part of society. It works because of that. We need people who are in addiction. We need people who are, because we're all part of the babies, the what's the story, the tune babies, that's all us. We're it. We're all
Yeah, rather than saying it's them that did it, it's all of us.
Yeah.
We are as a
That's
society.
yeah, because
And from a society point of view, we have to embrace all of the good, the bad and the ugly. And if we don't do that, we allow the stigma to occur. And it'll happen again. It's happening again. You could argue that it's happening again with people in addiction, with homeless people.
People in direct provision. Happening, our tune babies are happening again in direct provision. It's the exact same.
Oh, I hope not.
I guarantee you, in 10, 20 years' time, we'll be looking at. Sorry, we're going on totally off topic now.
Yeah.
Let's
pull it back to addiction. But I just think that it is about a societal awareness and embrace this whole of society.
And a huge thing around addiction, I suppose, and a huge movement now would be, and this is for me doing my masters, and is around the addressing stigma, and what we're talking about there. Also, then a huge movement, and it's very big in America and the UK at the moment, around recovery. Instead of addiction, we're going. You know what I mean? It's changing the movement to recovery. So it's a more positive slant in it, and it's a more that recovery is possible, and people do recover. You know, but we're as a society. The media are great at, you know what I mean, addiction and drug gangs and junkies and, you know what I mean, and the language you use and that. So there's a very much a movement towards trying to destigmatize and, you know, people, you know what I mean, do get, you know, have addictions, but there's also recovery.
Yeah, right.
That's a huge thing. We're getting a bit slow at it in Ireland here, like we're always a few years behind everything. Yeah. But in the UK and in America, huge movements around positive thing, you know, recovery happens, not the addiction and the addicts and look at the, you know what I mean, it's trying to kind of move away from that.
So when someone comes to Red Door anyway, so are you approached by the individual or is it a family?
It can be anything, Joe, from family to individual. Like I was in work on Friday, so everybody, two people were just like, I need help, and mother on the phone. Then you can have doctors, probation services, we could have TUSLA, we can have, you know, coming out of prison, maybe someone wants to link in and structure like that on Friday as well, you know what I mean? So, like, everybody and anybody. You can self-refer, you can walk in the door and go, I need help. Like, you know, it's a lot of our people would be people that come to the drop-in and would kind of be looking over the wall at the day programme and go, and I want a bit of that. Yeah. But then you people who hear about what we do and come and go, I've heard you know, you have a good day programme.
We won't give people... So if a man rings and says, I want to get an appointment for my son, we won't do that. He'll have to ring himself.
Okay.
Because we really feel people they need to make the first step themselves and pick up the phone, and it's hard, but they have to do it. And you just say, fair play to you for ringing, give you an appointment next week for assessment. This is in non-COVID times. Assessments are different at the moment. But anyway, and they go, right. Now they turn up their appointment or they don't. They might miss that one, they might miss the next one, but we're still not giving their mum an appointment for it, or their GP, or they have to ring us. Yeah. Because it is the first step to say, I haven't. Because oftentimes we people in the past who would have come and go, social workers said to come. I don't have a problem with drugs.
The judge said the court, I was told, the court told me to get shit together, and you're going, do you want to be here? Oh, you know what, I was told to be here. You know,
so we're not working with people like that.
No, that's not going to work.
Yeah, if you don't want it, if you're doing it for somebody else, and regularly we'd have people, and I used to work in treatment centres, and you'd hear people, oh, I have to come, you know what I mean? And I know for myself, the amount of times I've done it for other people, try to get, you know, because my family or my child, or it's not going to work unless you want it. Yeah. You know, and that to get that through to some people, you know, especially mammies that arrive at the door and go, Johnny has no more interest. Johnny's quite happy using his drugs. He's having a great time. Yeah. So I hate to tell you, mammy, but until Johnny's ready, you're at nothing. And that can be very hard as a parent, because, you know what I mean? You know,
we offer the parent, like we'd say we always say to the mums then, but what about getting a bit of support for you? Because oftentimes if you can support the parents, there's a massive knock-on effect to the whole of the family system. So how they deal is really important. So the mums sometimes go, oh no, it's nothing, I'm actually grand. John needs this, and say, okay, but listen, this option is here, because we have the Family Support Network Northeast, and we see people ourselves around family support, and that can make a massive difference to the family system. If mammy can
and mammy and daddy and family sometimes might be enabling. So I bought Johnny a packet of cigarettes every day. But you're really buying him his drugs. By buying him them cigarettes, he now has money to go and buy his drug. Right. So a lot of time we'd have to educate the family around their level of enabling within the addiction. You know, we'd have people that maybe, you know, somebody's drinking and they're covering for them in work, or they're driving them to work, or they're mopping up there. So we'd often say, you know, stop doing that, because you're actually supporting that person to stay in addiction. Yeah, and that can be a bit of shock to people. They're like,
I suppose I always find the word enabling, and I know we it's just it does sound like the language of blame. So when parents hear that, they think, they're taking some blame, but actually that's not. They're really working very hard.
Misguided love. Misguided love.
And it is, and I talk like as parents, all of us, like all you want to do is help your children to be happy and productive and whatnot. So, but I think they need to understand exactly what Joanne says, that you sometimes need to take the what do you call them things, the stabilizers off your bike, in order to get going. And parents are, and look, I'm the worst in the world for it. We absolutely mind them to the nth degree, and then when things go wrong, you want to quickly fix it. There is no quick fix now. You have to do the journey and do some work on yourself as well, and in order to support you. And they'll always come. Parents are great for getting support when you think they're going to help their own children and their family, even because they understand then that to help themselves, they can support their children in a better way.
But if someone does come to you, you stay with them. It's not as you're saying, there's not a 6-week fix.
There is and we never go away, do we? If they come back for 2 years, they'll come back. We're here. And we always say that to people because, again, it's about respect. They will come back, even if they come in for a cup of tea and we never see them again. The shit hits the fan for them in a year's time. They go, hold on. We were treated kindly here, and we'll go back here. That's what I always say to the staff, is like, make sure the person's first brush, and every brush, is completely respectful. Even if you're having a crap day, I don't care. I don't care if my staff are having a crap day. Clients don't need to know about that. They come in the door, this is how it presents. And we have a bit of our own issue around our building is an old school. So we have to deal with sometimes people coming in the door going, oh God, I went to school, that was my classroom. And your immediate journey is around, to re-traumatize. So how was the experience here? Some people say, oh, I loved it. And some people go, oh, I hated it. It was a horrible one there. Right, so you're already trying to manage a situation. But I think to acknowledge it and let people say, sister such and such was a horrible, I hated it or whatever, and say, okay, how do you feel about being in this building? And they're actually okay, but you have to recognise that straight away, don't we?
It's a great bit. Like in that, I know there's we have that initiative, but it's a great building, and we're very lucky with the building. Like the nuns gave us the building 20 years ago. Well, officially last year. They gave it to us 5 years ago. They gave it to us free to lease for 5 years. I think they obviously wanted to see if we were registered. If we were supporting their mission. And then when they realised that they were really happy with the work we do, they donated the whole building to us. We're very lucky. It's a huge building, and we're able to offer what we do because of the luxury of the building. With other services,
freezing.
Absolutely. Hence the big coats. When you're buying coats, you buy. And we wear them sometimes all day. But we're in the process. We're doing the place up, and we've windows, new windows and stuff, and it's going to be a bit more comfortable.
And so how do you get money? Where do you come from?
Well, Joe, you supported us last year in our fundraiser. You came to the Westport and you done a great, that was fantastic, and we had a lovely night that night. But we applied for a huge lot of grants. Things are very disjointed now, so you might apply to the lottery for a grant, or to Loud Leader would have an application for Windows, say the Heritage Grant. So all the time having to jiggle, and it's huge time consuming. Taken away from the time we could be with clients. Massively. So the budget, we talked about this earlier, so the budget is 149 from the HSE, which doesn't. We need more staff. If we had more staff, and we had outreach, and we had prison links, and we could see more people and support more people. And there's definitely we have a waiting list. We have a waiting list for assessments. So we now have a waiting list to get on our waiting list, and that's because of COVID, and that's really stressful because we used to be able to offer people an assessment within 10 days, and mostly 5 if because we did strike while the iron's hot. Because if somebody but now we've got to assessment, we have to somebody on the wait list for assessment to get on the waiting list for service. Oh, it's crazy. And with more staff, we wouldn't have to do that. And the nature of addiction, Joe, is if you arrive at the door and today and decide I want to do something about my 2 weeks later, that feeling could be gone. You're back off using again. So you have to catch people when they exactly right. So unfortunately, a lot of the time, by the time we get we assess people, and then you're going to go on a wait list. Someone's going to ring every week. They're going to check in with you, but and eventually, then 2 or 3 weeks later, that person isn't answering their phone anymore. That person, the desire's gone, and sometimes you just have to catch it it's the right time in the right place. I want help and I need it. I've hit the window's closed again for. Might come back 6 months, a year later, and might come back again. But that's the nature of addiction. We see that time and time again. So we always try to grab people when the going's good. you see someone and they go, okay, like they really wanted it this time.
Or we do as much work with them in the space that allows, and then they might go off for a while. But people have often said, like people who've got some recovery and then relapse. The relapse is never as good because you've always got this bit of learning that you've got, and you've always kind of.
You can never use
happily again.
Yes.
You can never use happily again. Exactly.
Because it's a little voice in the back of your head go, you don't need to do this now. You know there's help there for you. You know that person can help you, but you're choosing. And then you've ruined me.
Sure, it's a bit like now, like when I used to like love smoking cigarettes in my teens and 20s, and like I'm off them now, and I say, I miss them so much, but now I know. I probably going to get no, because you know the damage it could do you. Whereas you know yourself. Whereas I'd be the happiest smoker ever if I didn't think I was going to die.
Why can't someone invent a cigarette that doesn't have?
Oh yeah, I know. And I even went to I think I'll try those vapes, non-nicotine vapes. And then I read this thing about popcorn lung, and I was going, oh, for God's sake! But it's a bit like that.
But they'll always come in and say to you, every time I fucking go back using, I can hear your voice in my head going, there's Joanne in the back of your voice going.
But sometimes that makes people use more in that they go really deep in because the voice is going, you need to stop. You're going, oh, I'm not stopping. It's a balance.
Yeah.
But like you're trying to give people skills, a little bit of resources that can get them out. So we see people who maybe they go into a relapse, but they come out much quicker. That's huge. Yeah. Like you might see someone who's not ending up in the cross lanes. Flat out drinking and back on Liberty, whatever, they might actually pull it back after 6 weeks or 3 weeks or a
1 or 2 days of drinking.
Yeah.
And we say that to people. Like that shows when people are learning, because my slips aren't as long and aren't as chaotic, and they very quickly, when they go back drinking or they go back using, very quickly they go, okay, no, I don't need to do this, I need to stop. You know what I mean? So they've learned something, they've internalized something, something has landed with them, and they come back and they go, and I'd always say that to people, if people are slipping, I say, well, one thing about you might be slipping, but there's learning in them slips and awareness, because you're coming back, you're coming out of your slips quicker, and you know that I don't need to stay in that. So you know that they're learning stuff and they're applying it to their life. So, and slips are part and parcel of recovery. So that, relapse is part and parcel. People hate to hear that and go, but like there's a lot of learning in slips. If you can track them and see what's going on for the person and what are the triggers and you know what I mean, and what was the talk, what was going on. Something generally there's something that puts them in that place. We try and track back and go, okay, what would you do differently this time? Would you have picked up the phone and rang somebody? Would you have put yourself in that situation? Like, would you be sitting with your mates drinking and you not drinking? And eventually you're going to pick up, like, you know what I mean? So it's about learning the situations I shouldn't put myself in. Things that, you know what I mean? That and to learn from every time you have a slip, and eventually someday the penny will drop and it'll work. So that's
is there? It's a big question, but like, is there? What would you change about Irish society that we're doing wrong? That's
stigmatising, punishing people, putting people in prison for addiction issues. So if you went into Mountjoy prison or any prison in Ireland and you done a survey of everybody and asked them why they were in, you can be over 50% of people are in there because they've done something to get drugs or to get money or to around addiction issues.
Right.
Okay? So yet we're punishing them. They're already in pain. This is where I go back to the beginning. They're already in pain and hurt. They're trying to manage self-soothe. And then they do something because of the pain they're in. And yet then we put them into prison and we further stigmatise them and traumatise them and hurt them.
Yeah.
And give them a label. And if you end up in prison then, you know what I mean, you can't get a job. So there's so many, you know what I mean, then come back out then, can't get a job now, sure, what's the point? I'll just stay in this.
So that's just not working at all.
Well, it's madness.
Yeah.
We're punishing people for being in pain.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. And the link between mental health and addiction, obviously,
the dual diagnosis
piece. Really important that we talk about this here. Like, so dual diagnosis is well recognised, and which came first? Have you got a mental health problem and you're taking substance to try and support that, or vice versa? It doesn't really matter. Like, if I was to bring someone across veins today, depending on who you were talking to, as soon as they hear that you smoked a joint, they're not going to take you in there because that's our problem. Yeah. So we're saying to them, like, we need to look at the whole person. You can't take the addiction out of the person and give it to us, and the depression out of the person and give it to the mental health services. Yeah. And that's what they're attempting to do. That's what, like, they say that they can't deal with the addiction. Go and sort out your addiction first, then we'll support your mental health issue. It's becoming really problematic now. In other countries, it's recognised as a dual diagnosis piece, and we try and work with that. Now, we need to get some really good dual diagnosis workers in this country that work well, and we all work together to support the whole person. We can't divide them. It's a bit like, people are always saying, "Oh, that's not a mental health issue. That's a behaviour." And I go, "Well, you show me the hospital for behaviour, and I'll bring them there." But there isn't one. So you can actually have somebody banging their head off a wall, and the psych services are going, "That's actually a behaviour." Yeah, but it's actually really, really worrying.
And a lot of our clients we're looking at now would be, I'd often come into Louise and go, such and such, like he's probably ADHD, undiagnosed for years. He's bipolar. He's schizophrenic. You know what I mean? There's the amount of people we see that are probably undiagnosed through their lives and have learned to self-medicate.
Yeah.
So and like Louise said, the chicken, which came first, the chicken egg. So am I, have I a mental health problem and I'm self-medicating with drugs, or have I been taking so much substance and now I have a mental health problem because of that?
Yeah. Or I was predisposed to mental health problem and smoked a lot of
weed,
marijuana, and it's become an issue. Yeah. Whereas it mightn't have. Well, research would say that it may or may not have presented, but if someone's going to smoke a load of weed, it's a bit like playing a game of Russian roulette. Yeah. It could, But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you got there. You need support with your mental health and with your addiction. And see, you really catch me because the psych services, all they really have to offer as far as we can see is a diagnosis and a drug.
But that's what they do. They're
prescribers,
like psychiatrists. Think that's what they do. They're men. They're just right. They're like doctors for the brain. I can write your prescription. But if you
why is that though? Why isn't there more of a wraparound support for the whole person? You can't just say, right, you've got this, now you get this. This is another drug, this is another substance that's going to be abused possibly at some stage of the game. Now we're seeing this is ongoing. So I suppose you asked a question, what can we do? As a society, we need to look at our mental health issues as much as we look at our physical health issues, take it on board and manage it in a whole approach. Like we've had dealings a lot with mental health services, whether it's through our own family systems or through work, and I don't think it's good enough to just write a script for somebody. Yeah, I really don't. It's not okay. I'm not sure what the answer is, but that's not okay in my mind.
I don't I think we're moving somewhat towards a better system, but. We have a long way to go, but I don't think we can. It's per se. So the people that are working it, they're working to the policies of where they work.
But I mean, Amnesty International said that the psychiatric services in Ireland were third world. They actually said that about 10 years ago, and nothing has changed. No more money's going into the psych service. If you look at how the health budget is divided, that is so far down the rung of. And we use so many people through suicide. I mean, you spoke to Sophie yesterday. This is serious pandemic.
And we're coming out of this now. We're going to see a mental health pandemic. We're already
from COVID.
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Huge increase in addiction.
Huge,
massive. Oh my God! Sure, people who haven't been drinking 10 years are flat back out drinking. Every day, ringing.
And anybody who had any issue is definitely, if you had anything that was, it's become a lot more to the front as well. Maybe you're at home now with your husband and you weren't at home and you're seeing, actually, he's drinking 4 or 5 cans before dinner every day. Well, there's all that as well.
Divorce.
Yes.
And often, we're seeing parents who are now working from home who are now realising that their children have a much more serious or a problem that they didn't realise.
Eyes are on people more now. You're seeing more. You're at home more. So and then with being at home more and all the conflict and maybe relationship problems, people are then falling back on drink or falling back on drugs or using more because to manage the day-to-day stresses. So we're definitely going to see a huge.
We are already a lot of people ringing with cocaine problems and stuff like that. Yeah. Cocaine is massive again, really, isn't it?
How do you feel about legalising drugs then? Does that make a difference?
Well, decriminalisation and legislation is what are two.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. It's definitely on its. I think it's going to happen in this country in the next 10, 15 years. I suppose the whole taking it out of the criminal, their hands and if you look at Portugal and the model there, did more people start using drugs? Has it? I don't know.
You see, I think it's very hard to compare to the country because
we're very different.
We've got our own little special gift around the nation. So oftentimes you look at the countries and I go, but we're not Portuguese. It's a bit like people go, but they drink, they give the kids wine in the Mediterranean. We're not.
What do you mean the Irish? What are we just?
We have a serious problem. We have an addiction issue, like any other nation that's been
traumatised about the famine.
So
you
literally that was
yes, we are still here.
Pain in the bones of the soil.
That's.
We are a
I've
nation.
thought of that before, but I never
100%.
really.
And the American Indians and the Aborigines.
Yes.
Huge addiction issues, and people go, it's genetic. It isn't genetic.
Years and years of trauma.
Years and years of trauma.
Of how we're treated by the English, like that. We are still fighting that fight. So it's
So I think we need to be very careful when we look at Portugal or we look at Switzerland. Hold on a minute now. We're Irish and we need to look at it. We need to look at it in the bubble of that.
Yes.
And just be very aware that yes, I think decriminalisation needs to happen. But I think we need to manage it in a very particular way, because if you push a society further than they're able to go, you've only further re-stigmatised the people, I think. So if you say, people look at drug users and they say this, that, the other, you need to gently support people to understand the trauma and the stigma, as opposed to we're going to legalise drugs and then we only further I think we can further stigmatise people by pushing a society where they're not ready to go. We need to be careful. And I think we are very slowly moving towards the cannabis thing, and I think we'll definitely go there. Not sure we're ready to go anywhere else yet, but in time. But I would love to take out the middleman.
Yes, and also would that not take out a lot of crime in the fact that people have to commit crime?
Yes.
So therefore, if I'm caught with a bag of weed on me, I'm not going to get a criminal conviction. It's okay for me to have. And it's so normalised now for young people are. It's like an RJ of having a drink. Young people are smoking weed. They don't see it as a drug.
No.
They don't see it as an issue. It's just like this. Everybody's doing it. So.
So how do people contact the Red Door?
Well, they can come on our website, Red Door Project. What is
.ie,
something like that. Yeah, if you Google the Red Door, you'll see it, and you can go into the website. It shows the whole team. It shows what we do. You can see kind of some of the projects we do. You can donate to us as well. There's a donate button there. Anybody wants to donate. But generally people ring. That's always the phone number, and there's a mobile and the drop. We can arrive to the drop, but we're not COVID times now at the moment. But if it was normal times, our drop-in service is Monday afternoon 2 to 4, Tuesday all day, Wednesday not. Or Wednesdays are kind of like our meetings day. Thursday all day, and Friday morning. So they can just arrive at the door.
And the times are on the website.
The times are on the website and that. So anybody just wants to, can just arrive at the door, and they'll generally be given help.
Well, Louise, Joanne, thanks a million for chatting to me, and it was very enlightening. Brilliant.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.